So, Chuck, I know you've got two locations out in Arizona. Tell us about each of those, when they came online, and all that all that you're offering to your customers out there.
Great, Tim. Thank you.
Mhm.
We started our corporate headquarters in Tucson. In 1995 is when I started the first location on the east side of town. And our current location in Tucson, we're in about 18,000 feet at one location, and just down the road, we've got another 12. So we're a little over 30,000 feet there at those two locations. That facility is AS, ISO, NADCAP, ITAR, the alphabet soup of what we could achieve for certifications in our industry. We offer painting, powder coating, dry film lube, anodized chem film, passivate, part marking, laser marking, stenciling, we've just started adding value added other services like hardware insertion, threaded insert, to help support the customers. Because in Tucson, what we're seeing more and more as that facility became NADCAP, we wanted to dedicate that facility to more full service, one-stop shop that can, many of the customers we're seeing now are on the East Coast, Midwest, Salt Lake Basin, Southern California. And we wanted to try to avoid the drop shipping of some components back to them for some minor final assembly work. So that's why we added that. Some of the processes we've added recently there is we brought hard anodized back online. We had one customer that ate up a large portion of our capacity in our anodized tanks. So we stopped doing hard anodized for a little while, about 14 months while we supported this customer, very high demand. And now that contract's coming to an end. So we brought our hard anodized back online. We've submitted our final testing for Teflon, high temperature Teflon coating, which will help support some of our other customers in the aerospace industry. Again, that's where Tucson's kind of centered around. Oh, excuse me.
No problem.
Let me turn that down. And Phoenix, our second location, and Tucson has about 72 to 75 employees. That fluctuates a little bit.
Wow.
We also do media blasting. I didn't want to leave that out because that's a very important part. Iron phosphate, and we've just converted some of our phosphate customers to the zirconium product that we like the enhanced capabilities of the additional salt spray results that we're getting with that as well. So our customers in Tucson are basically flight hardware. We do some defense there, but we're really gearing it towards more flight hardware and the NADCAP type customer. Our facility about 75 minutes to the north in Chandler, which is basically the southern part of Phoenix. We do painting, powder coating, media blasting, silk screening there. We're also adding that same zirconium process there within the end of the year. We have very large paint capabilities there to support 20 foot by 20 foot by 60 foot components. Our largest part we paint is actually a semi-trailer. So between our two facilities, we've painted cameras that have been on the Mars rover for lunar planetary labs that have been very successful in a zero vacuum environment, and all the way up to semi-trailers. So our scope of what we can handle is from very small technical parts to very large technical parts. Our Phoenix facility is about 32,000 square feet. We currently employ about 35 people, and we're looking to add another 7 to 10 because we have secured a couple new contracts that are defense based. And Phoenix is really pushing hard on the defense, what we would call ground control side. Our largest current program supports the aerospace and the moving of very high-end national defense components.
Right. And when did that shop opened? The Phoenix location about 5 years ago, was that right?
Yeah, we started building about 5 years ago. Came online. Let me think. So about 2020, May 31st, right over Memorial Weekend. Got our first component, and they needed it immediately. So we worked over the holiday weekend. The team has always been great about supporting the customer and making sure they're successful. So that's been, and since then, that was right before COVID. So we had some challenges to face there, and
Right.
We pushed our way through. We were able to work with our customer and that main customer and other customers to make sure that we were on solid financial ground, because as you're aware, it's a huge risk to take on a second location and
Right.
separate some of the team that we had in Tucson that's been very successful and been with us a very long time. Move some of them to Phoenix, at least for the initial startup. I moved to Phoenix and I'm here 2/3 of the time as we continue to build the team here. It's getting to be very cohesive now. Both facilities work together. We move milk trucks back and forth to depending on what's going to best support the customer's needs for delivery and what processes we do. So Tucson might do some of the chemical processing and then send it back to us if we've got bandwidth to support the customer's needs for the other coatings that we would do here in Phoenix as well. So it's the production schedules work real close together to make sure that again, the end of the day is we're supporting the customer and it's seamless to them wherever we coat the parts. So.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, I remember, I think it was about that time we were getting ready to open the last time I think we chatted. As a typical powder, liquid coater, those type of things, you seem to fall in that range. You're doing some pretty sophisticated work here for some very sophisticated customers, right? I mean, it seems like it's a little notch above what I see most of those in that sector doing, right?
Well, we knew that there was a lot of competition in what I call the high volume or automated line. All of our stuff is batch. We're high mix, low volume, very technical work. We like processing parts that require multiple processes, high tolerance masking. So our people get a lot of training on blueprint reading and revisiting processes. We've got a great quality department from quality management and associates that work on the systems all the way down to the inspection team. So it's been really great as my team continues to grow. And we had our most recent NADCAP audit was very successful. Probably the toughest auditor that we've had yet in the years that we've been NADCAP. He commented that we have a very robust system and our team's doing a great job. So that was very pleasing for me to hear as the leader there.
It's funny, hearing, we're talking today and you're pleased with how things are going, right? Which is great. No guarantees when you started this process. And I know and I know you were contemplating this for a while. And I know manpower was sort of the issue, but walk me through a little bit. I know you wanted to get up to the Phoenix, and was it a specific customer that was asking you to come up that way? Was that
Yeah, I'm sorry. So on our powder side, we do a lot of semiconductor work, which Phoenix is famous for. We've supported them for about 15 years. And I told them I was considering, because, Tucson's like the redheaded stepchild, we'll call it, of Phoenix. And if you tell some people in Phoenix that you were based in Tucson, it was a tough time to get the finals to close the sale. So we initially opened up a very small transfer portal to have a Phoenix address, a Phoenix phone number when that was important. And since then, we talked to our large semiconductor customer. And during that time, we were also converting with our NADCAP coming online and looking for more aerospace and defense type work, more sophisticated work. So between those two customers and their support and partnership, we've been able to grow our facilities to support them and many others. So it's about partnering with your customers. Of course, price is a concern for those customers, but we look for the customer that's not their top concern. They want ultimately customer service. You answer the phone, even if it's bad news. You keep them informed on deliveries. Quality is paramount. That they get the job right the first time back. And on-time delivery, of course, is my customers' three biggest concerns. There was always that three scenario: price, delivery, and quality. Well, we'd say there's four, because customer service, I think, is something that is super important, and feedback we get from our customers sometimes lacking in our industry. So we wanted to make sure that we covered that base and look for the customers that look for those three first and foremost, with price being a concern, but not their leading concern. That's not our customer at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah, making this move, like you said, investing capital, investing time seemed to be the biggest thing. Did you have a game plan? Or was there anybody that you really could? It seems like in the finishing industry, you're on your own, right? You're not really call the guy down the street and ask him a question. But thinking about that, did you have a game plan of what you wanted to do? Was it kind of a general plan, or did this kind of all fell together for you there? Like I said,
Well,
having that customer and
being an entrepreneur, my wife laughs at me and says, well, laughingly now, that she couldn't believe the risks I was, before she was my wife,
right,
risks I was willing to take. And I think that's the entrepreneurial spirit of somebody that starts any company, especially
yeah,
in finishing. I started in my garage when I was, mid 20s, and it kind of fell into this and started doing, and it took me about 8 or 10 years to figure out, well, this is really something that I can build. And so of course, surrounded myself with a lot smarter people than me. And I do call on people in other industries. We have some friendly competitors that we chat with, and many of them not in our region, but call folks like you if we have questions. There's a lot of technical expertise out there that may necessarily not be in our industry, but we can call on, being now that we're in a more critical industries with the defense and aerospace. Again, my customers have been great partners. We signed a deal for the first unit of 24 5 years ago without the guarantee of getting, the first one was a big ticket, but we didn't have the guarantee of the additional 23, as they didn't either. So there was the big risk. Right after we delivered the trailer, COVID hit, and it was about 10 to 12 months of just flatlining, to where I was about to agree with my now wife, that decision. But, if you make the commitment to do something, either, for yourself, your family, your customers, your team, your employees, which are a huge asset, you have to make sure you push through and find a way to make it work. So, I went to my other customers. We looked at other options and opportunities. We started looking outside of Arizona, which led us to being added to multiple other prime vendor lists as well. And through that, now it's all really coming to fruition, where, we're surpassing our yearly goals for revenue and bottom line profit, and
right,
which is helping us further our growth and adding additional capabilities as well.
right. You know what's remarkable, Chuck, is you've got this plan. You know what you want to do. One of the things that struck me was you're basically breaking up a good team in Tucson, right? You have to send some people north. You have to find people that can replicate what was happening there, like you said, and get that cohesiveness and get them to buy into what the way you want it done, the quality that needs to be done. It seems like the easy part was finding a location, finding the equipment, all these things. How do you manage that, especially since now you are, you're not stationary in one position anymore, right? You're
No,
going to have to be movable.
no.
How does that work? Or how do you put that all together for you?
Well, my director of operations was great. Who's actually my wife now. She grew through the company from a head of one of the production departments to director of operations long before we started dating, and super sharp lady. She's held my feet to the fire and helped me make some important business decisions. With that, I'm the entrepreneur that wants to keep going, grow, and she helps rein those rings in, the reins in once in a while. But the team here in Phoenix, we brought, by myself and Tony, my wife, the director of operations, we split time here between here and Phoenix. Sometimes I would come here, sometimes she would come here. We now have a home in Phoenix also that we live out of and work out of. But we'd also bring 1 day a week, we'd bring one of the managers from Tucson with quality, production, scheduling, one of the line supervisors, to work with the Phoenix team to teach them. And we've duplicated, we have a great ERP system, and we've duplicated those same processes, all the same operating procedures, work instructions, policies, procedures, are all basically duplicated. That was all built. All of our admin is in Tucson. All the accounting all goes back through Tucson. So that made it a lot easier having those systems in place. And I think, maybe that's where you're going with your question is what really made us successful? Well, drive number one, great customer number two, and probably above all systems, because we were able to take the great people we have with the systems and help the new team in Phoenix learn. And there's sometimes a culture change that you have to go through when you bring a whole bunch of new people in at once instead of bringing a couple people on board and they get acclimated. You bring 15 or 20 people on all at once. That is a bit of a challenge. And so by implementing and making sure they were immersed in those systems and bringing those key players up from Tucson to spend time with each of the departments is what's really helped us. And now I manage the company most of the time from my phone. A couple hours a day on a desktop, and the rest of the time on my phone with calling customers and communicating with the leads, being the site managers at each location and quality, and going over any challenges or opportunities we may have to support the customers.
It's funny. I know some shop owners who just will not leave their facility. They won't go on vacation, so to speak. It sounds like to a certain extent, like you said, having to be sort of mobile as much as you can. It does build that you have to have good leadership at your position at these locations, and you have to have trust in them, and they have to feel empowered, right? I mean, to a certain extent. A lot of people, that's hard to get across sometimes. How did you guys manage that?
It was tough because when you learn to delegate, it gets easier and easier.
And how hard is it to learn to delegate?
It's tough. It's tough when it's your baby. I started this in my garage, almost 35 years ago. It's tough to allow your people, but when I got out of the way and allowed these sharp, and even some young folks that are very sharp that work for me, to take control and ownership of their position, they blossomed, they grew. It's made my job much easier. I travel to see customers that are now across the U.S. and in Mexico at least 1 week a month. I work from my home office considerably, and I visit both facilities weekly, usually a day and a half at each facility, maybe not 8 hours the full day, but if you have good systems in place, you can manage it, through data is really where we look at now, which was, a change for me because I was so hands-on. I could do pretty much every process at the shop, at either location. And so it was tough to give that up. And, whenever there's
I was going to say, and data doesn't lie.
Right? No,
it can't.
Good data, as long as it's good data. And that's one of the big things that quality does. And we used to scrub all kinds of data till we really figured out what were the key performance indicators that we were looking for. And so our team is, and that's, we share it, of course. And then if we keep all the data ourselves in management and we don't share that with the team to give them goals to help improve, that's also another real valuable tool that we've implemented years ago that has, made our team more successful. And and they get the kicker at the end, whether that's, bonuses and or, pay raise increases, better facilities, better tools, better support staff. So it helps, always having what they need to do the job and listening to the team, for better, if there's a better way to do something. So we have a ton of, we have weekly management meetings where the management team meets. We have monthly all hands meetings, where we do some awards and ask for feedback. And of course, then there's the silent suggestion box as well that folks can
Yeah, it's funny. Two things I hear that I think that, I'd like to talk about a little bit, because you mentioned about, communicating with your customers, right? Which is so important when they're relying on you. Like you said, good news or bad news, you got to communicate. Same thing with your team of communication, of letting them know, what's coming, what's the next couple of weeks are going to be, what the next month's going to be. It sounds like you all have really nailed that down, that talking through and communicating is key, and also not just with your own team, but like I said, with your customers as well. And it seems that again, a lot of shops don't master that, and it seems to be a problem.
It makes management's job easier. We went through training. I can't remember the name of the training, probably 10 years ago, where it talked about telling everybody what the change is coming, good or bad or indifferent. If you tell people what's going to happen, so you don't just drop it in their lap when it does, they can prepare for it emotionally, financially. There's no added stress on the team, which is also helpful. So, I think communication is key. And one of the rules we have on the customer side, which we try to treat our, we want to make sure our team members feel the same way, is that we try to, answer people within 2 hours. So if HR gets a request from somebody, we would like to hold them accountable to answer within 2 hours to the team members. Same thing with a customer. If they send an email, even if you don't have the answer, hey, I'll get back to you. I just want to make sure I've got your email. I'll work through it and I'll get you the answer as quick as I can. And at least a follow-up, within 24 hours, if you're still working on it. Hopefully we can have a resolution for anybody. But that's one of the best things I hear from customers when I walk in and see them, to say, so-and-so at your organization is phenomenal to work with. I love it. Thank you. That's some of the best stuff in the world. You've trained somebody well. They've taken ownership. They feel empowered, and they're servicing the customer. Because at the end of the day, if the customer's happy, we're going to all get more work. Word of mouth is going to spread. We're going to get busier, and it's going to, help reward the team in the end.
Right. The other thing I was going to mention that kind of struck me was, you add services, you add processes when a customer has shown interest in that. I know some facilities will back off of that. It's, again, it might be a capital expense. It might be we don't have the expertise on it, but it is, I think what you mentioned before is that partnership with that customer, that you're willing to do this for them. All right. I think it shows with them, correct? That when you're putting that commitment to them as well, by either adding services, adding processes, that goes a long way, I think, to keeping good customers.
Working weekends, rushing stuff overnight. Sorry, my phone's binging again. You talk about partnering with customers. So we put in a downdraft spray booth, 20 by 20 by 60 feet long, to support this one job. And we went to the customer and requested that they, put in a large down payment that will help support for that capital expenditure. We have a very high-end oven that we run data packs on, some powder parts for the semiconductor industry. Again, we went with them, and they offered to actually purchase that piece of equipment and put it in our facility based on a rebate plan, over 10 years. I've had customers come to me and I say, well, that part's too big for our plating tanks. Well, what if we pay for the tanks and put it in? That's happened. So it's if an opportunity presents itself, I have never said no, because that's how we've grown to the size of the company we are, is by always looking at those opportunities. That's the entrepreneurial spirit again, is looking at those opportunities. And as long as there's a return, and it's within, not this bandwidth, but maybe that bandwidth, and it's in the finishing or the supports to finishing, that, will win us another, potentially large customer. And, and we look at every customer and what the potential could be there. If it's a small customer walking in, we don't turn them away. I know some shops will turn folks like that away. We have one specific person that that helps, generate some of those smaller customers and build them and nurture that relationship, so that you never know where that person's going to end up, whether it's a new engineer out of college, and as they grow through their career, where do they end up? So we don't ever want to, burn any bridges.
Shut a door on anybody, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So sometimes you can't help them, but, we always look at it and try to even refer them to somebody else if it's something we can't do. So it's is keeping that good name, and they'll remember that you tried to help them, and they'll come back to you in the future if there's something you can do for them. So
yeah, that's what I said. It always seems to come back with that. So you're, like I said, it seems longer, but like I said, just 5 or 6 years into this, I know you open. I know you like to do some planning there.
My beard's
What do you?
longer.
What's that?
I said my beard's gotten a lot longer.
That. What's on your drawing board for things? I mean, it sounds like when you have systems in place like you have, and you've got some good leadership, uh, and it sounds like you can scale things up even bigger if you could. What does it look like? I mean, what do you think may be happening with you all? What do you got your eye on, if anything?
Well, two things. It's funny. We've been approached by one of our customers in the Salt Lake region and they have facility space. They've asked us if we want to consider that. So we told them, once we got through fiscal 2024, we would consider that. So that's on our talking points for the end of this year for 2025 budgets. And if they're still interested and willing to help with a financial commitment as well, and a guarantee of a certain amount of work, of course, through performance, we would consider that as well. We're starting to pull a lot of work out of the Salt Lake, almost as much as that we're starting to look at maybe doing a semi-milk run up there, a couple times a week now. Southern California has been a great market for us. Of course, Phoenix and Tucson and northern Mexico as well. So it's the decision to go to a third or fourth or fifth location is not as difficult as it was to go to two. That's for certain, Tim. I mean,
Right.
we see that it works. Salt Lake's a lot further than 75 minutes, Tucson to Phoenix, facility to facility. It's a 2-hour airplane ride, on top of all the other stuff. So it's a little further, but with technology like what we're having this conference today, it's pretty easy to work through challenges. And I have grandbabies in the Salt Lake region, so it's so it's
there you go. Another reason.
That's an added benefit. So
right. Yeah. Who is it? Who is it on your team? You got some, like I said, some very substantial customers, and like I said, you're getting. Do you handle that? You got somebody that handles that for you, seeking out some of these people that you're.
It's funny. Word of mouth has been probably our greatest. Whether it's our website or some of the other places we're tied into, like your site, Finishing and Coding, that we get some leads from. But I still do the majority of the sales and marketing. Tony, my wife, I've actually been working with her to convert her more from operations, and we're looking for a VP level operations person currently. She's actually doing some interviews this week and next week here in Phoenix and Tucson. So we're looking for a very smart person that can come in and help with the additional growth we're looking at, because we're looking to add probably another 15 to 20 folks between the two facilities we currently have. That will free us up to look at those other opportunities at other potential locations and continue to market to our customers. Our website, our all the other sites we're on. We started doing some more stuff with Xometry. So it's, again, I think our greatest marketing tool is our customers past and present that either refer us. We had a great big customer, the one in the Salt Lake region, found us on another AVL for one of their customers for another prime vendor, and said, they came down and visited us, and within 2 weeks, which is odd for large primes, we were processing parts already. So,
wow.
And this year we've been added to 3 other. Well, between summer of last year, last 9 months, we've been added to 3 other very large prime vendors that we're starting to see some work from as well. So
seems like another asset to have is be flexible, be ready for if somebody comes knocking on the door to make it happen, because I think that's what they want. They want to see how you can respond to it, and then work with them again, build those long-term relationships with those companies with that. So wow.
Exactly. Yeah. We're, while we are a job shop, we're trying to convert that more to, contract-based work. But being in the metal finishing, that's, I remember the old days, you'd be like, wow, the yard's empty, the building's getting close to empty, and say a prayer, and the next morning, 2 semis show up with work that you didn't know were coming. Not that doesn't happen anymore. I mean, not, at least not the vacancy of work, but the truckloads will still show up that you don't expect, which is always fun. But our customers, I'd say our top 20 customers are becoming more sophisticated, that we see forecasts now, which in our industry I know is a challenge for many folks. We face that. And so that's one of the things we work greatly with our customers is projections, forecasts, so that we know how we can grow and what we can expect, what we can work with our vendors so they know that they can allocate the materials to us that we're looking for. And so that's been another great partnership, is working with, some of our key vendors, our top five.
Yeah, that's great insight, isn't it? I mean, to be able to tell you how their business is doing, but also how their industry is doing, because that kind of gives you key indicators of where growth may be or stagnation. I mean, that's information is key with that. But yeah, well, like I said, it sounds like I said, whatever plan you had sounds like it's working. Like I said,
I was just doing the juggling act, but it's after doing this first one, I think I would be less resistant to a third and or fourth or fifth location as those opportunities present themselves. If we can tie in with another, key customer, 2 or 3 that we know we can get support work from to get started, and with maybe a little skin in the game on their part as well, then it would make sense for us, for sure.